Hello everybody, welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel and this is Dearly Departed Game Week 6 match preview. If you're new here, Dearly Departed is where we look at the teams I have covered in the Championship before that have managed to make their escape up into the Premier League. We've got lots of friends supporting them, lots of subscribers, so we keep covering these teams, and they are Sheffield United, Aston Villa, Leeds United, West Brom and Fulham. Our Fab 5, our Dearly Departed 5, and every single week we have a game week preview, a game week review, and hopefully every time the two meet, or two of these 5 meet, we can do a little watch along as well, time permitting. God, I'm struggling in this 3-game week with the Championship though. Right, we're going to look through each of the 5 teams' fixtures and maybe you might even get a little prediction there. First of all, we need to say thank you to Coyle, who is our fan sponsor of the Dearly Departed series this season. Jay, Dearly Departed, also known as Ben, couldn't bear to lose us, marching on together. Thank you so much, Jay, for your sponsorship. There we go. There are our game week 6 fixtures, and you will see at the top there, showdown between Aston Villa and Leeds United. A big game tonight. Indeed, we're recording on Friday here. Fulham Palace is our next Dearly Departed game. Avert your gaze to Liverpool Sheffield United is our third. There is West Brom and Brighton down near the bottom. There is our fourth. It's only 4 Dearly Departed games, but obviously we can speak a little bit extra on that Leeds Villa one because we've got 2 teams meeting again. There is the table. Villa just flying the flag for the Dearly Departed. Look at that 100% record and 4 wins from 4. Second in the table. Long may it continue. Leeds, they're in the top half. We've got 2 Dearly Departed teams in the top half. First defeat there in 4 earlier this week. We covered that in the watch along against Wolves. Then sadly we've got to go a little bit further down for our last 3. 17th West Brom there. Only 2 points so far, but with my positivity hat on, that's 1 defeat in the last 3. Are they getting more competitive from a Dearly Departed point of view? We hope so. Then it's the bottom 2. They played each other last weekend and neither of them managed to get the win, but both of them managed to at least get a point, although you can see what a win would have done for either of them, catapulting them up into outside of the relegation zone. So, maybe opportunity lost for both of them, especially given missed penalties and things of that nature from a Fulham point of view. Right, you may have just seen the logo. Before we go into the predictions, quick plug, www.fanfirst.co.uk, our partners for the next couple of weeks over here on the channel. FanFirst is a user-generated ratings website. So instead of picking up the newspaper and reading those scores out of 10, no, you make them yourself. You just go in, register, pop your email in and which team you support, and go and get rated. You can rate the players, the managers, the entertainment, the referee, and even the VAR for those of you who want to give yourself even more of a headache watching Premier League football. www.fanfirst.co.uk. Okay, here it comes. Tonight, indeed, a big game down at Villa Park, and one of great interest to us here on the Dearly Departed show because it is Aston Villa versus Leeds United in what has turned into quite the rivalry, I think, now. Now, let's try not to get too prickly in the comments because, as my mum used to say to me when I was growing up, oh, Ben, you see, the problem with you two is you're falling out. You're just a bit too similar. And I dare say when I look at Leeds and Aston Villa, I see two mighty giant clubs that have had huge histories with massive fan bases, who have not had the best of times. They've not had the best of owners, not the best of operational decision making over recent seasons. Leeds going back for a longer period than Villa, it has to be said. But there is now a sense that they are both on the rise again, and both, hopefully for their sake, stabilising in the Premier League under good ownership with good managers, and both seem to be building stable, good, competitive Premier League teams. I think you need to tip your hat to both. And before we get prickly in the comments, especially when we talk about this one, because I want to talk about the two Dean Smith, Marcelo Bielsa games. There's the second one, actually, we're going to do first, was the 1-1 draw back at the end of that season. Now, I was at both of these games, and I was privileged to be at both of them for different reasons. Obviously, this one is remembered for the carve-up at the end of the game where Click scored and the Villa player was down and they didn't stop. And then Bamford and El Ghazi get into it, and then Bielsa says to Adoma to score the goal. Look, can we just park that, please, now? Because for me, it doesn't. It's not important for two reasons. One, because as we all know, Villa had already got the playoff place there. Leeds were already going to be short for automatic after that Easter weekend, and Sheffield United going ahead. So I feel it would have played out a lot differently if something had been riding on this game, let's just say. And also, Bielsa dealt with it there and then. He said, right, this has happened, I'm doing this, draw a line under it. Obviously, football fans being what they are, struggle to draw a line under these things. But what I would much rather talk about is this game, which I also went to on the 23rd of December 2018. And long-time viewers of the channel will know I'm absolutely in love with this game. It was absolutely, utterly brilliant. And as a championship vlogger, I don't know if it will ever get any better than this. Look, it probably will. The championship always throws it out. But look, Aston Villa versus Leeds. You're not going to get a bigger matchup in the second tier very often than that, are you? And it was a brilliant game. It was 3-2. And it was the first chance I really got to understand these two managers. Obviously, I'd seen Smith a lot at Brentford, but he's now, and with great respect to Brentford, I'm a great admirer of Brentford, but Aston Villa is obviously, you know, a different level over its history than Brentford. And so Smith at Villa and Bielsa at Leeds, and it was just fantastic, wasn't it? You can see there 3-2, Hurahan and Abraham with the goals, and then the arrival of Jack Clark, Janssen, and Kamar Ruth with the late winner. And it was fantastic. Okay, it was a bit kamikaze and a bit all over the place, but we got to see what I consider the noble principles of both of these managers. Now, don't hit me in the comments. I'm not saying Dean Smith is Bielsa. I'm not saying he will reach Bielsa or his career, but they actually share some similarities here in the noble pursuit of playing out from the back, trying to sort of start each phase of play with the intent of scoring a goal, and playing what I call active football rather than passive football. Obviously, Bielsa has mastered this over decades, and perhaps his is a little bit more fifth gear than Dean Smith's third gear. It's a bit more patient, but there are similarities. And when these two teams match up and these two managers, it's just been great. And that was a fantastic game. The only thing it lacked was Grealish. That if you look there, we had Hernandez as the chief creator. Grealish was injured at that point. But yeah, I just felt it's worth setting up the context that this rivalry is great. The managers match up very well. And look, come on, put your wanting to win aside. I think it symbolises a rise in both of the clubs that they're now competing in this way with the teams they've got now on the stage they're on now. That cannot be a bad thing. Enjoy the rivalry. I know they're sometimes hard. Villa obviously are on fire, aren't they? 4 wins on the trot. Leeds, with the back-to-back wins there over Sheffield United and Fulham, really encouraging one against Manchester City, but lost to Wolves this past week. I've had a bit of back and forths, and thank you to all the Villa fans, because I did actually call it out and say, look, I'd had a few Villa fans having a pop at me for saying exactly the same thing I said about Leeds. Now, everybody be calm, put your emotions to one side and leave your bias at the door. What I said about both teams is I didn't see any signs of viability in certain games leading up to 1-0 wins for both teams away in tight games. That gives me a lot more belief for both of these sides that they can have really good competitive seasons. And again, when I was describing Wolves the other night, I described them as they're not going to challenge the top four, but they're not going to be in the bottom four, but they're expected to be competitive in all Premier League games. I think if you gave that to either Leeds or Villa, they would take that all day long. Be competitive, but be nowhere near the conversation for being relegated. I think that would be where they would go. And I dare say, and I'm not pointing fingers at fan bases or specific fans or anyone, sometimes it's actually from within. And when the expectation changes, it's not actually the people on the outside who are reasonably asking, okay, is this viable? Villa up at the top of the league, Leeds winning the Premier League. Sometimes it's actually internally, it's the fan base who's having difficulty coping with, oh, now people are looking at our club differently now. They're not looking at Leeds and Villa in the Championship saying, what are they doing there? Or Leeds in League One even, for goodness sakes. They're now looking and saying, oh, what are they doing there? Can they stay there? So often it's actually, you might hear this term said, it's not my issue, it's your issue. So often it's actually, I've had this with Reading fans this week in the Championship. They're top of the league. And now everyone's going, are they going to stay there? And they actually seem to have a chip on their shoulder about people saying, are they going to stay there? Rather than the other people having a chip on their shoulder about them being there. Maybe it's a bit of both. But it's a nice change of expectations for both Leeds and both Villa, who are now, frankly, on the evidence, and I'll come back to my first point, of Villa being able to go to a Leicester and having a far more stable, sensible win that would predict success, far more than beating Liverpool 7-2 in a mad game, or Fulham collapsing, or Sheffield United getting a red card. Give me the 1-0 win over Leicester. And the same with Leeds and that win over Sheffield United. Leeds fans got cross with me, but if I'm a Leeds fan, I see much more viability and possibly predictive future success in a 1-0 win at Sheffield United, the way that happened, than 4-3 over Fulham or losing 4-3 at Liverpool. So I think hopefully we've got over that with both teams now, and we now have enough evidence to hopefully say for both, they're going to be competitive teams in this division. Are they going to finish in the top four or the top six, either of them? Probably not. But look where we are and look where we've been. So that's what I will say. For Villa, there's been a key shift this season in that first 11. And we need to talk about Martinez coming in, and we need to talk about Barkley, Watkins and Cash. It's not so much the players that have arrived, it's what that has enabled the other players to do. For example, Martinez now being in goal seems a safer pair of hands and feet in respects of the actual system of play and the starting of attacks and progressing the ball forward. So that's great. Cash coming in, well, yes, he's a decent right back, but now that's brought Konza across with Mings, and now the balance of that back four looks a hell of a lot better. Now, here's the one that really is exciting Villa fans, and myself to be honest. Barkley comes in, and all of a sudden, you shift John McGinn back alongside Douglas Luiz, you put Barkley next to Grealish with Trezeguet, and all of a sudden now, your key player Grealish, well, he's got a mate next to him who's, going to be pretty decent in breaking teams down. And he's still got his other mate, McGinn and Luiz, behind him. So what that does is it balances out where the attacking threat comes from in that Villa team. And yes, we all know Grealish is doing brilliant things for Villa, but now he's got Barkley. So the idea of a 4-1-4-1, Grealish out on the left, okay, just double mark him, keep him out on that side, don't give him time on the ball, keep him away from the goal, get back up whenever he gets the ball, fine. Okay, what if he pings it to Barkley now? And who's marking him? So it just balances things up. And then Watkins, obviously he was with Smith working at Brentford. I think there's a bit of a misnomer. I think a lot of the development of Watkins was actually done under Thomas Frank. But they're known to each other. And just that, being able to just run the box and that type of movement and in behind has really helped. Now, those tweaks to the Villa team. Look, and again, we're talking about a sustainable season. Are Villa at the moment are on course to win all their games? If you look at the first 4 games, that's not going to happen, obviously, is it? That would probably never happen in football. A team win all of their games. It just doesn't seem plausible, does it? What we're talking about is sustainability through a season of can they continue to be competitive? And that may mean, in the end, that they're, I don't know, somewhere between 8th and 15th or something of that nature. But are they building? Are they improving their team? Are they being competitive? This all looks good and all bodes well for Villa, doesn't it? So I suspect we will see, if not exactly the same, something very similar to that. Here is Leeds. And look, obviously the big caveat to this is that Leeds have only been up in this league for a few games, whereas Villa have had the season and the time to build. But there's some idea of Leeds actually doing a similar thing to Villa, in that there's the team that took Leeds up last season, and it feels like they've got the shirts, but in the background, I don't know whether there'll be the Cash and the Barkley and the, who else did I mention, the Martinez effect that Villa have had, but in the background now, you've dropped in Koch and Rodrigo, Rafinha and Llorente. So they're not all just been thrown straight into the team. Koch maybe a little bit different. But now there's this sense of, well, you've got the shirt, but the quality of that 16 is now raising. If you can out-train and outperform this guy, you keep the shirt. If not, and obviously this is all predicated on them actually being good signings and being good players. The evidence so far looks good. If you can't do that, this other guy's going to come in and then he will raise your level and everything gets better. And that's what Leeds really are working towards, isn't it? So the issue is they're at centre-half and with Calvin Phillips, who is not going to be about. Injury to Cooper in the warm-up meant it was Struick and Koch. And obviously Phillips is it a shoulder? I think he's hurt his shoulder towards the end of that game. So, potential worst case scenario for Leeds is, well, they definitely don't have their sort of star player and deep line playmaker in Phillips. And potentially they don't have their captain. And it's been pointed out to me that League One Liam, as he's been referred to in the past, when he's on the pitch, Leeds don't lose. And when this season, and when he's off the pitch, well, they have gone under. So he makes a difference, let's just say, at the back there. A, in terms of balance with that left foot, and B, in terms of leadership and the continuity of this team under Bielsa through the seasons. So it'll be interesting to see if Cooper's going to be back, and it'll be interesting to see what Bielsa does with Phillips and with that deep midfield position. Let's assume for 1 second that Costa, Harrison, Bamford, Rodrigo, Click are all going to keep their places. I had an interesting conversation the other day on YouTube. I forget who it was, so I would give them credit if I remember, so I apologise. Talking about, could Leeds maybe start to introduce, for games like against that Wolves game, maybe a sort of double pivot system where it's been Phillips and then players ahead of him. Maybe a little tweak in games where they really need to dominate territory as well as possession. Maybe he would use a 4-2-3-1. Who knows whether that might happen during the season. But someone's going to get an audition. And in the past, we've seen Bielsa do very interesting things here in respects of actually moving a centre-half forward into this position. We saw Ben White do it, I remember, in a game at Huddersfield last season. So I'm very interested to see how he solves this conundrum. Does he bring... Well, he's light on centre-halves, so... But is that a Llorente job? Is that a Llorente debut? I don't know. Who's going to play centre-half? If Cooper's around, could he do Cooper and Koch? Stick Struick in there? I don't know. It really is an interesting one. I'm sure Forshaw actually playing a game of football would have helped in the last year or what have you and solved that issue. But again, then does he bring Click back? And do you see a Tyler Roberts come in or a Pablo Hernandez start the game? It's going to be very interesting, that middle area of the pitch. There are many different ways he can go. And I think a long way to predicting the result of this game is in that how that problem is solved. I'm sure Bielsa already knows exactly what he's going to do, and they've been practicing it probably for a few days already. So I'm very, very interested. Is it Cooper, Koch, Llorente in the same system? If Cooper's not around, is it going to be Struijk and Koch? Klitsch comes back, Llorente comes in. I don't know. Get your thoughts in the comments. There are the odds. Leeds 21-10, Villa 6-5. So Villa just short favourites. And again, when I'm making my prediction for this, do the absences or potential absences of Phillips definitely and possibly Cooper tip this in Villa's favour? And does Bielsa solving that problem, is that the key to this whole thing? Because we think Villa are going to do the same thing. Either way, this has been an excellent rivalry between the two clubs and the two managers. I would beg I've got plenty of subscribers from both. I would beg both sides to just respect the other and say, look, these are big clubs that have been in bad moments that are now in a better moment. And the fact that this rivalry exists at this level is a good thing. And it's just a good matchup for the neutral, these two managers going against one another. That has been proven in spades in the past. So look, I think I agree with the bookies, and especially with the Calvin Phillips issue, that might make Villa slight favourites. But I'm sure Bielsa has got a trick up his sleeve. And will we see Pablo Hernandez start for the first time with this being said in the Premier League? Get your thoughts in the comments. Obviously, this is a dearly departed big one and a big one for the channel. I'm really sorry I can't watch it. I'm working tonight. I would have loved to have done a watch along for this one, but maybe we'll get the review out ahead of time tomorrow morning. Get your predictions in the comment and enjoy it. A brilliant rivalry, Aston Villa versus Leeds. And up next, we are going to West Brom, and West Brom visit Brighton in 3 days' time. So, God, is that Monday night? Oh, we might watch along this one. Watch this space on that one. So West Brom go down to, I was going to say the south coast. It's, what's the place called? Falmer, is it? I don't know. I've driven past the Brighton Stadium. It's one I've not actually seen a game at yet. So that is what both sides are up to. We'll deal with our dearly departed team first, obviously, and West Brom. And I'm hoping, with my biased dearly departed hat on, that there's some signs of improvement here. If you look at the first two games, 8 goals conceded, and they scored a couple, but a couple of worldies, Diangana and Pereira in that game against Everton there. So for signs of sustainability, then 3-0 up against Chelsea and back to 3-3, that stuff doesn't interest me. It's too crazy. I need bland and easy to help predict the future. Whereas the last two, okay, they haven't scored in either, but it's looking more competitive. It's looking tighter. And when we look at the team, there's some sense that maybe he's now moving Bilic from Slaven Bilic West Brom Team 1 that got him out of the Championship to Slaven Bilic West Brom Team 2 that will challenge to keep them in the Premier League. Those teams don't have to be completely different, but they may be slightly different. And sadly for some players that frankly got West Brom out of the Championship, it's ruthless. They might have been involved in key in Team 1 and not in Team 2. Has Krissy gone to Forest? I think they got that deal done. Some weirdness with the loan there. But that's an example already of someone, well, look, off you go. And Zahor's gone to Millwall already. So they're already moving on from Bilic Team 1. Brighton have got that one victory up at Newcastle. Otherwise, 3 defeats there. Chelsea, Manchester United and Everton would be a mitigating factor. So the bad news for West Brom is that even though Brighton have lost games, they've been against teams that, okay, Manchester United aren't quite there yet, but against teams that probably are going to finish up in the top 6, at least top 8. And we know often the key in the Premier League for avoiding relegation is perform against the bottom half teams. You know, assume everyone's going to be dropping points. Literally everyone against Liverpool and Man City, and then most of everybody against the remaining top 6. Whether that's different this season remains to be seen. So that might be a bit of a bad sign for West Brom, that Brighton are actually capable of picking up those teams, and that's how you stay in the division, and hence they have stayed in the division the past seasons. So that's what Bilic did last game. And look, on the bench there, Romain Sawyers, he helped get them up, and Semi Ajayi. So it's brutal. They were the ones I was waving the flag and saying, oh, well done, Bilic, great signings. They played all of last season. They were there through thick and thin to get West Brom up. But are they now going to move on with sort of Ivanovic, who's more experienced, who's been brought in, Higazi, who is maybe just a bit tougher and a more physical presence in the back there? Who knows? And then in the midfield, in terms of Sawyers, look, well, Gallagher is in it. Kravinovic starting in the last game as well. And Gallagher on loan from Chelsea. Does he have a higher ceiling than Sawyers? I don't know. And they got a point in this game and didn't concede against Burnley, did they? Then look up the top of the pitch. Karlan Grant has come in to supplement. So look, we knew the area they were going to be relying on this season, Dejan, Garner and Pereira. They've now added Grant in. So look, maybe those players, particularly Dejan, Garner and Pereira, have a little bit less licence than they would have in the Championship. Of course, maybe they're a little bit further back and it's 4-1-4-1 rather than 4-2-3-1, and they can be a bit higher up and influencing in that way. But still, quality players, and they're the ones that will get the goals, and now Grant added in. So it'll be interesting to see what Bilic does and whether that clean sheet team remains the same, or whether his loyal lieutenants will not play in the second game. Why does it say Nathaniel Klein over Bissouma's name there? I must have hovered my mouse when I took that screenshot. There you go. So look, from a dearly departed and from lots of Championship fans watch this. Lots of familiar names there. Look at Adam Webster from Ipswich and Bristol City. Obviously Ben White on loan at Leeds last season. And Neil Mopai from Brentford. So Brighton have used the Championship market, which will be of interest to a lot of our viewers here. Tariq Lamptey is obviously raising eyebrows with some performance, particularly that one against Newcastle. And Lallana has added a little bit of experience in there. There are the odds. Brighton are odds against favourites. West Brom, yeah, they're not well priced in this one. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's very easy just every week, and you'll hear me say this throughout the season, if our teams are in the bottom 3 or worse, bottom, it's very hard to predict victories. The trouble I've got back in West Brom in this is the evidence that Brighton pick up points against teams that are down there, that are their equal or lesser, and have lost games against Everton, Manchester United and Chelsea. Albeit West Brom have already picked up a point against Chelsea, so you can argue yourself in circles with this. I would be backing West Brom, or have more confidence with backing West Brom if it was at the Hawthorns, but it's down there on the south coast at the Amex. I think the best West Brom can hope for is a draw. So look, let's see if they can do something there and start building Bilic team 2. But the worry is that Brighton, obviously having stayed up, may well be adept at winning home games against potential rivals, and particularly our dearly departed teams. Get your thoughts in the comments. The next one is a nice easy one for Sheffield United, away at Liverpool. And that is the Saturday night game at 8 p.m. Now, a couple of our dearly departed teams have already played Liverpool, so there is actually some hope here, because if we look at Liverpool's results, well, Leeds went to Anfield and they got they got 3 goals, okay? Look, we looked at the numbers of that game, and Leeds did finish incredibly, and, on another day, don't beat me up for saying it, Leeds fans, the margin could have been wider than 1 goal. We know that. Let's be honest about it. Virgil van Dijk was playing in that game, and he obviously, famously, will not be playing in this game. And then, Villa, 7-2. Look, are Liverpool going to lose 7-2 again this season? Probably not. But are Liverpool in the kind of the 3rd year of the gestation of this team? Are Liverpool going to get tired and drop intensity through various games, more so this season than they have done the previous 2? Maybe. Can teams take advantage? Liverpool played in the Champions League, didn't they, at Ajax? Can you take advantage of playing Liverpool? I'm just trying to give arguments as to why Sheffield United shouldn't just think, okay, we're turning up away at the champions. Let's just play for a draw and try and keep the defeat at a minimum if it happens. So I'm trying to give some mitigating factors. So that's the argument for Liverpool. And again, I will mention the Van Dijk thing. Obviously, brilliant player for them, brilliant centre back. But we'll look at the team. We'll look at the team in a second. For Sheffield United, it's not been good this season at all. We did have some arguments in some of the games, but it's put them on the back foot now. Obviously, the red card for Egan at Villa. Maybe the David Luiz thing in 2 of the games, but let's not pile on the mitigating factors. They haven't won tight games this season, and they need to, don't they? They really, really need to. Tight game went against them against Sheffield United. We'll do the red card. Tight game went against them against Leeds, who just took it on the day. That happens, doesn't it? And in a tight game against Fulham did miss a penalty in that one as well. So, they've played home games against 2 dearly departed teams here and only picked up 1 point. So we need to see a pickup from the Blades here, don't we? That's what they did last game. Ramsdale, obviously the big miss is Jack O'Connell, isn't it? And look, they tried Ender Stevens at centre-half, and then Max Lowe didn't last at wing-back. So presumably Stevens goes back and Jack Robinson comes in. Would he try Ampadu? I don't know. There is an idea if... and no offence to Jack Robinson, but there is an idea that if Wilder is trying Stevens at centre-back, that he doesn't necessarily trust that combination there with Robinson in at centre-half. But he's still got 2 of his main lieutenants in Egan and Basham there, so maybe it's just they're in a tough moment and Wilder's just trying a few things to pep it up. So, yeah, we'll see what the issue is with Lowe and how Wilder configures that Bulldog there, right wing back. Norwood came back into the midfield with Lundstrom and Berg. Fleck still not in the team there. He's not on the bench there, so maybe he has had an injury there. McBurney and McGoldrick. Look on the bench there. Rian Brewster has just been sold from Liverpool. So narrative ahoy. I don't know if the old curmudgeon Chris Wilder believes in romantic stories like Brewster going back to Anfield and scoring the winning goal. But people who make YouTube videos love stuff like that. So hopefully that could be something that they can play into with this tough task going to Anfield. Look, Adrian there. So it's not Allison. Forgive me, I don't know the state of play with Allison. And Van Dijk. Obviously they'll bring in Gomez. How severely does that weaken Liverpool? Can you play on it? And then it's just difficult because Thiago has looked very good in his opening games. And then, of course, the front 3 is just a freak show, isn't it? It's just so good. And that's the worry that, okay, you take out Van Dijk. Yeah, he may set the tone for the pressing and the standards at the back, but you're still facing Salah, Mane and Firmino, who are just brilliant, aren't they? So that's the worry. And I know this game was a tricky one for Blades last season, wasn't it? And Chris Wilder was very honest about that. Yeah, look, 11-1 Sheffield United to go to Anfield and win. Look, for fear of being predictable, look, obviously it's very, very easy for me to sit here and say I think Liverpool will win this one. But let's try and give some try and give some hope for Blaze. Van Dijk isn't there. I'm not sure about Alisson, what's happening there. So they could be not fully manned up at the back. They've been more open this season. And teams that actually go and attack them probably have more chance than teams that just sit in. Look, Leeds scored 3 goals past them. Villa scored 7. So if you can turn them around when they're really pressing up high, there's a chance. You just got to remember, though, that Sheffield United is not about a quick ball into the channel and counter-attacks. It's been traditionally about building up attacks with getting 3 and 4 players over to one side of the pitch and either playing in behind with the wing-back and the centre-back, famously, or then knocking the ball back to Ollie Norwood and everyone's pushed on and then maybe a clever right-footed cross into the box or something of that. It's not been about, right, Liverpool have come onto us, hit the channel, get Brewster in, get McBurney one-on-one, or get McGoldrick in short and runners off him quickly on the counter. So maybe it played better for a team that attacks with the speed of a Leeds, or Villa did manage to play through and get Grealish 1v1 in a 10, or Barkley, or you see what I'm saying. So I'm sure Wilder will have covered that in his tactics of, look, try a few times, just turn it over really quickly when you win it. Maybe that plays into a Brewster or a Billy Sharp running off the last man. But that's the hope. Obviously, you have to play an hour and a half against Salah, Mane and Firmino. That's the thing. And we all know if they play well, doesn't matter what you do, they'll score 3 goals, 4 goals, won't they? Because they're that good. So a difficult one for me to call anything else than a Liverpool win. But get your thoughts in via the comments. Last one is Fulham versus Crystal Palace. Should we call this a Roy Hodgson derby? Roy Hodgson, a great manager for Fulham. Well, great manager for most places he's been, hasn't he? Except Liverpool and England. It didn't work there, but there you go. So 24th is a Saturday, 3 p.m. Fulham versus Palace over at the Cottage. Fulham, it's been a poor start, hasn't it? But again, I'm looking for crumbs of comfort. Is there signs of improvement here? Yes, there is, because obviously losing your first 3 games and conceding 10 goals is much worse than picking up a point from your next 2, only conceding 2 and getting on the score sheet, isn't it? So that is literally an improvement in the last 2 games from the 3. The key is not the results at the moment. The key is Scott Parker finding something that's sustainable, that can get results through the majority of the rest of the season. You would take another couple of games without a win if it meant Parker gave his team the time to build and say, right, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going with. This will become sustainable. What you don't want to see is, okay, maybe a point here or there, but the team keep changing every game and Parker still throwing more stuff at the wall and hoping some of it sticks. I hope that makes sense as an explanation there. It's a home game against a team that may finish in the bottom half, but we know what the Premier League's like. If Palace can churn it out, they could be in the middle, or when I say in the middle, I'm talking about somewhere between 8th and 12th, or 7th and 13th, or something. So you never know. Palace, they won their first 2, didn't they? Look, they're against Saints and Manchester United, but then tricky couple of games there, losing at home to Everton, who are on fire, obviously, aren't they? And then at Chelsea, they drew the Gatwick derby, or the M23 derby, or whatever you want to call it, against Brighton last week. So they'll be looking at this game against a newly promoted team as an opportunity to get back to winning ways. And let's be honest about this. It's no disrespect to any of our dearly departed teams. Every established Premier League team looks at a newly promoted team and says, right, we should be better than them because we've been up here longer. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. This is what Parker has come up with now. And it's just, he's had so many different tweaks already this season, and it does play into the fact that Fulham, I don't think, got promoted as a fully formed team yet. He had his philosophy, he had what he wanted to do, They were too good for the Championship, obviously, and they had Mitrovic, who is a nice cheat code in the Championship, isn't he? Now, it's difficult because it feels like he's at a much harder level trying to figure things out. It's almost a sense that this would have been easier losing the playoff final to Brentford, having another season to build it in the Championship. But, hey, I'm sure the Khan family would take the Premier League TV money a year earlier. So, it's not Ruddock anymore. It's Areola in goal. It's not Reeve and Hector. In fact, Hector was linked with loan moves out, wasn't he? It's Reeve, Adarabioyo and Iain as a back three. So he really has not trusted, an Adoy, Reeve, Hector, Brian back four. And that's essentially what got them up, wasn't it? In the midfield, Kearney has now been joined by Anguissa. So even though Harrison Reed's been brought in, he's not in the team. He was key at the end of last season. Then look, Robinson has taken a left wing-back position over Joe Bryan, who even scored 2 goals in the playoff final, didn't he? And Cavallero at right wing-back. So he just has not been able to find a solution. Iain, Sessegnon, Adoy, etc. at right back there. He's now trying a wing-back system with Cavallero. So Loftus-Cheek and Lookman, I like that a lot. So Loftus-Cheek has got proven Premier League and international calibre. And Lookman, that's been a really nice signing, hasn't it? Just come in, he's just looked a breath of fresh air. He doesn't look defeated by, those first couple of games they had. Mitrovic, okay, missed the pen. Let's just stick with him now, and it's sink or swim for him in the Premier League. We know he's too good for the Championship, way too good for the Championship. Can he now be even a Chris Wood or an Ashley Barnes or Neil Maupay over at Brighton? Just do a job in the Premier League. Stay up there, Mitro. See if you can get the job done. So I'm guessing on the basis they got a draw, we're going to see the same system and a lot of the same players because he just needs something to stick now and to win some games with a system, doesn't he? Palace there. For our Championship fans as well, look on the bench there. Eze, we hope he's going to bust his way into the team. Obviously, quality with Zaha and Batshuayi up front. And then people like MacArthur and Townsend, Schlupp as well, played a lot of Premier League games now. Cahill and Koyate should be a nice staid central defensive partnership. And moreover, this is a Roy Hodgson team. And Fulham fans will know exactly what I mean when I say everybody will know exactly what they're doing, where they should be on the pitch at all times, where they should be in relation to others on the pitch. And those patterns of play will be rehearsed to a T. So you wouldn't think they would be giving a lot away in this game. What do the bookies say? Tight, look at that. Fulham 9-5, working 9-5. 8-13 is the price for Palace. So Palace are just favourites if I've done my maths correctly there. I'm not a gambling man, so I can't tell you right off the top of my head. Is this the chance for Fulham to get their win? They've got to hope that Palace don't quite click. There is just a nagging feeling of Parker, the new guy against Hodgson, the old master, and the old master might just take the new apprentice to school, mightn't he, and just show up and get the win here. It's going to be tight. I want to predict a win for at least one dearly departed team, and obviously I called the Villa Leeds game as a draw. So look, let's, with our fingers crossed, back Fulham in this one, just on the basis that it's at least a win for one of our dearly departed. But look, come on, it's Roy Hodgson, isn't it? And again, I repeat myself, Fulham fans know only too well that Roy Hodgson knows exactly what he's doing, especially in an away game against a team he feels like he's got a chance of beating. So there you go. That's our 5 fixtures. Villa and Leeds, I called a draw, didn't I? Liverpool, Fulham, Palace. There we'll go down in the order they're written on there. I've just called a Fulham win, more maybe in hope than expectation. Liverpool, Blades. Well, say no more. There, I've called a Liverpool win. Brighton, West Brom. Did I sit on the fence for that one? Probably. And there we are in the table. So we just have to hope that we can keep our two teams there in the top half there, Leeds and Villa. And that, look, as long as we don't end up with a dearly departed bottom three, don't ask me who's going to join them in there, because we've got Burnley and Brighton down there. Obviously, Manchester United are unlikely to stay down there given their size. So, yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. I just don't want a dearly departed bottom three. So let me know your comments. Could we get a dearly departed bottom three? No, please no. Thank you again to Jay for sponsoring this show. Jay Coyle, dearly departed, also known as Ben. Couldn't bear to lose us marching on together, he says. And if I press a couple of buttons, www.fanfirst.co.uk. Go ahead, go and register your team, your email, and get rating. Check out the ratings, especially for you Leeds fans. I put my own ratings in for Leeds and Wolves after doing the watch long as well. A little bit of fun there. And just to break the fourth wall a little bit, this is not run by a big conglomerate. This is a guy called Matt. We spoke for ages on the phone. He's a Brighton fan. He's a football fan. Go and support Matt and www.fanfirst.co.uk. That has been the Dearly Departed preview. This will go out at some point on Friday ahead of Leeds Villa, but I will post the clips closer to the games. I know we've got a Monday nighter and a Sunday one to look at. So thank you everybody for watching. In terms of Dearly Departed, because it's Leeds and Villa, I could do the review and get that out Saturday morning. We will have a look and we'll have a think about that one. I'm working tonight, so I do apologise for not being able to do a watch along, but maybe in recompense I'll try and get the review out tomorrow morning or something. We will see. With that being said, God, have I done 45 minutes on a Dearly Departed preview? My God. The guy can talk. Thank you very much for watching. And it's an over and out from me. And I say leave your bias at the door. Let's wave my bias. Up the Dearly Departed. Come on, our 5 teams. Let's get some wins, for goodness sake. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button and to be notified every time we upload. Ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.